Good evening, everybody. We have a handful of people still coming in, and I am muting everyone. I've currently taken off the option for you to unmute yourself at this time. Everybody, we have a handful of people still coming in. All right. This is also streaming on YouTube, so people can watch it at a later time if they were not able to be here this evening with us. So we're kind of getting everybody in. We still have a few people rolling through. All right. Looks like my waiting room has slowed down just a little bit. So we are going to go ahead and get started, and I'll continue to let people in as they arrive. So I am Sam Sams. I'm the principal of 2nd Street. If I have not met you in person, you probably hear my voice come over the phone when I do our one calls. This meeting is really to help you have a better idea now that your students are really kind of in the middle of Summit right now, and get an idea of what it's going to look on a report card. I think that's important because when you and I went to school, school looked very different, and A, B, C, D, F looked a little different and meant different things. So I just want to talk about some of those differences and make sure that you feel very prepared to have conversations with your children about what they're doing on Summit, and understand what that report card means when you get that on Friday. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you all, and I will give you the opportunity to ask questions at the end of this. So just hold those to the end and I will stay on as well. All right. Let's see. Not everybody has there. I asked if somebody could see. I do see you, KJ. All right, so here we go. Share my screen. Let's see. Oh no. Hold on, guys. Bear with me, of course. Let's see. Some technical difficulties here. Let's see how fast. Let's see. I think I have a teacher in this room. Leisha, I'm going to make you the host real fast. Can you hear me? Miss Rexroth? Well.
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, I'm going to make you the host. It's not going to let me share my screen unless I quit. And so I'm going to have to get back in. And once I'm in the meeting, then we'll switch it around.
Okay.
All right. This is just another day in the life of our digital virtual learning, everybody. All right. So it should not kick you out now because Miss Rexroth is the host. Right. All right, everybody, we are going to try this again. My computer kind of crashed and burned on me about 45 minutes ago, so I have borrowed a colleague's, and it did a few things to our computer. All right, so let's go to our slideshow. So this is information, and this is our agenda for tonight. So PFA, SDL, what in the world do those mean? Your children have probably been saying these words, and you are wondering what is going on. So we're going to figure out what this new lingo means. We're going to go over the class structure, summit grading, where to find grades, what in the world do they mean, infinite campus, and now that you have this information, what do you do with it? So that is kind of our agenda here. All right, let's jump into the lingo. Okay, so for 5th through 8th grade, English class, science class, or social studies class, they have 3 main areas that they work on. They have projects, power focus areas, and additional focus areas. Your students know what these are. In math, you have math units and power focus areas, and that's just 5th grade math, and I left something out of there. They have the power focus areas and additional. And then down in 6th grade math, you'll see that they have portfolio problems. So notice that that is there as well. So projects are in 7th grade, they read The Outsiders. In 8th grade, they did the Serial podcast. In 5th grade, they did the book review. And in 6th grade, off the top of my head, these are all English classes, they did the storyboards. Those are your projects. Okay, your math units are them going through the process and learning math and then taking an assessment at the end. Okay, so those are our math units. These power focus areas are 10 question multiple choice assessments that is much more independent than project time. And this is how this is weighted. And we will get into the weighting. So the lingo, when they say projects, that means it's English, science, or social studies, and it is what is happening in content time. They are reading their novels, they're doing their projects around those subject areas. In math, that is called math unit time, all right? And they are learning math through their math units. Then if they talk about power focus areas, those are their 10 question assessments that they have to get an 8 out of 10 on to pass, okay? All right, next up is that class structure. So how does this all fit into our day? So the content time, currently your children have class from 8 to 9, 9 to 10, and 10 to 11. During that time, they are working on their projects, their math units, and their portfolio problems. That is what that time is highly focused on. SDL is when our kids, whether they're virtual or in person, it's once they go home, and it starts at 1 o'clock. SDL is self-directed learning. And the reason it's called self-directed learning is because the teacher's there to set goals, pull specific students if they're struggling with something, if they need extra assistance, if they just need a mini lesson. But for the most part, your students are independent during those last 2 hours of the day. That is why it is called SDL, self-directed learning time. And during that time, that is when your child is working on those power focus areas. They're working on the additional power focus areas. They could also be catching up on a project, getting pulled by a teacher to have a mini lesson over something they do not understand. So that's an additional phrase, is it SDL time? And that is at 1 o'clock each day. The other big part of Summit is mentoring. If you do not know who your child's mentor is, please ask your child tonight. You need to build a relationship with that person. They are your go-to person. If you have questions about Summit, or you just want a little more clarification on something for your child, your mentor, your child's mentor, is the first person that you should talk with, and they can give you a little more guidance. And then if it's more content-based and it's very math focus, it's very reading focus, that mentor can reach out to those teachers and include you on those emails and that communication. But they are a great bridge between home and school. So please know who your child's mentor is. All right, next up is how the grades are weighted. So certain areas are weighted differently. You can see that projects and math units are 80% of your child's grade. So it's a huge chunk. So if they did nothing else but got 100%, they'd have to get 100 on everything. The top grade they could get would be an 80. However, those power focus areas are non-negotiables. If they make it to the end of the year and any of those power focus areas are incomplete, they will have an incomplete for the course and will not be able to go on to the next grade until everything is completed. So none of this work is optional in any way. The additional focus areas are not required. However, it is worth 6% of the grade. That doesn't go away. So the only way for a student to get 100 in the class would be for them to also do the additional focus areas. So your projects are 80%, your power focuses are 14, additional focus areas are 6. Same thing with the math. Remember, I forgot that additional focus area at 6. In 6th through 8th grade math, you have one more area in there. And you can see that the math units compared to 5th grade math are now worth 70 instead of 80. And those portfolio problems are now worth 10%. So those play a part in what that looks like as well. So these are how those are weighted. I talked with some students today because their projects look great, their power focus area looked great, but they didn't have the grade that they thought they did. And it's because how these classes and how these grades are weighted within the system. I also wanted to spend time on showing you the Summit resource of what exactly Summit and their grading scale looks like. So this is kind of what I just showed you, but in a picture format, that for English, social studies, and science, the biggest area are those projects and where your students are getting scores on their cognitive skills. Are they really good at argumentative claims? Can they pull evidence out of a text? In math, that big chunk, that 80%, 70% in 6th through 8th is the unit scores. Then you can see focus areas are both in the project classes and math. And then math has that little sliver, remember that's 10% for portfolio problems. The portfolios only 6th through 8th, 5th grade does not have those. Okay. So what are these cognitive skills? So these cognitive skills are like communication, critical thinking. Can they articulate a clear point in their writing, in their speaking? And they work on those projects in that 8 to 11 block most of the time. There are rubrics as 0 to 8. When they graduate Frankfurt High, they should be at an 8. So that they are not at an 8 right now at 2nd Street. I guess it's a possibility, but it's 0 to 8 for the entire length of time until graduation. The focus areas are the ones that are worth 14%, and they are the 10-question multiple choice assessments that the students have to get an 8 out of 10 on to pass. And you have power focus areas, and they contain the required areas of content knowledge for a given course. For instance, we have an English class right now. They are writing an essay for their project, but in their power focus areas, they're learning how to use commas in their writing. And so that quiz is all about punctuation, or that quiz is all about putting quotation marks in. So those focus areas play off of the projects, and that is what those are. Those are also the ones that should be done mostly independently, and we'll kind of get into that a little more. You have the additional focus areas, that's that 6%, and then you have some challenge focus areas that is available in some classes, but not all. The portfolio problems exist in 6th through 8th grade math and are worth 10% of a student's overall grade. The unit assessments are the large, they're like the projects, and those are worth 80% in 5th grade, 70% in 6th through 8th grade math. That's where they have practiced throughout the way. They have all these checkpoints and these cool downs in math that they've practiced. Now they are ready to take the test. That is that unit assessment. So now let's get down to grades. When we were in school, we got A, B, C, D, F. There is nothing below a C given in Summit. So basically, what that also means is we expect a C or above, and we will not take anything less than a C. However, you will see an F show up on a report card because what that means is your child is off track. Off track could mean that they have turned something in and they have not passed it. Off track could mean that they have missed a deadline and have not even attempted it at all. So off track will signal you to be like, something's going on here. So they could not be doing a variety of things. And then here are some extra resources too on how to help your child succeed and what that looks like. And we will talk about more about that in the slideshow as well. I'm going to check the chat here to see if anybody has possibly asked any questions right this moment. SDL is not an optional time. Going through some of these questions right now in the chat. Students are required to be in class from 8 to 11. They have 3 classes that they're supposed to be in. Our virtual students are required. Our in-person students are required to be there. When they go home, all students are required to be back in SDL at 1 o'clock. That is not an optional time. And we are seeing that some students are using that as an optional time and not showing up. Today was Wednesday. This Wednesday is a targeted time to really get your student the help that they need and to enrich them and catch them up in a variety of ways. And some students are skipping out on that time. So it's super important that we get our kids on the Zooms when they're supposed to be. Do they have access to their content teachers during SDL time? Yes, they are with their content teachers during SDL time. We are going to start a new process with SDL. It's not a whole lot different than what's been happening, but if they go to their homeroom teacher, so if I am a 7th grade student and my homeroom teacher is Miss Rexroth, she's the math teacher, but I really need to go see Miss Thomas about science, then yes, that child can go see Miss Thomas for science. I know some of the struggles our teachers are saying are, oh, you need to go see Miss Thomas. Okay, get off my Zoom, go to hers. And that student gets off the Zoom, but then never goes to see Miss Thomas. So it's very important that they then go to where they're going. And we're trying to figure out some virtual ways to make sure that that's happening. How does 8 out of 10 translate to a percentage? Does green mean 100%? Does 8 out of 10 mean 80%? So if we'll kind of dig in, and I'm going to show you the grades on the actual platform. But when it comes to 8 out of 10, if they get an 8 out of 10, a 9 out of 10, or a 10 out of 10 on those focus areas, it shows up as 100%. It's like passing at that point. They have to get an 8 out of 10 to pass it, and that's 100%. Why can't parents see feedback from teachers? I think you can. Maybe we're just not looking in the right spots. So we'll go through some of that on where you could potentially see that. I know one of our teachers here, she has a parent of a Summit student. She sees it from the parent view. She actually likes seeing it from her child's view better. So she'll log in as her child and she feels like she can just see a lot more. So that could also be something that you do, is log in as your child to get a little bit more information. All right. I know this is a waterfall of information, so I will come back and check questions as we go. Okay. So where do you find grades on Summit? So when you log in, there is this purple bar to the left side. Now, honestly, I couldn't tell you, I have not seen the parent side of things. So I'm not 100% sure what it looks like. But on your student side, they can easily pull this up for you. There is this little line with the dots. That is the progress tab. So when they hit the progress tab, they're going to have a page, and on the far right, it's going to look something like this. So you can see that this student has an A in math, which means that's a 90 to 100. The fact that it's an A+, it's a high percentage. And if you clicked on that, I'm going to show you that in a minute, it would give you more information on that score. Now, NA and NA, what does that mean? That means that that child is on track with the focus areas, that is going great. However, that project is not due yet. Because the project, we're getting close to the deadline for 8th grade English and 8th grade history, but we're not there yet. So they don't have a grade for that main project. So they're not getting an A, B, or C. So right now it is still in progress and they are on track because the focus areas are in green. So if you were to click on any of these, it would bring up something that looks like this. So that in A, you can see that this project has not been due. It has not been scored yet. You can see that they've passed all of their focus areas and they did additional focus areas and passed those as well. So as soon as this project gets graded, that is when this will turn into an 83, a 97, a 74, right? That is waiting until this project is due. That resource that I showed you on Summit's grading, that is right here in that account. So if you wanted to relook at that, you can find that in your child's account, and it might be on the parent side as well. If you want to go up and see this as history, you can hit this and it will take you to math and any other subject that your child is in. All right, I'm going to go back to some questions. So we're talking about repeating assignments. I'm going to show you the year platform and kind of show you what that means. And I think you'll understand that will answer that question when I get there. You have to change the view to the child or you won't see that. Okay, so as a parent, you have the option to view as your student. So when you do that, you have a lot more functionality. And students can make corrections on assignment if it is not passed the first time. Okay, so we will continue on. Okay, so on Friday, your child is getting a report card, right? Teachers started putting in grades today. So what that means is if the teacher put in a grade this morning, right, it is locked into IC, but your child could have worked their tail off today in some of their work sessions, and now that grade is old news. That is how fast things move in class. So that report card coming home will be a snapshot of what your child is doing. So please remember that. If you want the most accurate information of where your child is down to the second, then look on Summit on that progress tab. That will give you the most accurate information. All right, so when you go to this page, you see here, this student is NA, NA, and an A+. These are all the options that your child could be, okay? If these words off track are on your child's Summit account, it will show up as an F on their progress report that comes home on Friday. Now, like I said, when you and I grew up, an F meant probably you were doing absolutely nothing. That is not always the case. This red off track could mean that they have done nothing and we really need to get them caught up. They're not attending class. They are not turning in their work. So that is one concern, right? That's the extreme. The other one is that they have turned in their projects. And you can see here, these students have turned in projects. However, they either did not meet the 70% needed or they were behind on focus areas. So they are off track. Because remember, if those focus areas aren't complete, they're going to get an incomplete for the course. So off track could mean a variety of things, but it will be flagged as an F. So it draws your attention to ask your student, why are you off track? We wanted to use the same language as the high school. So once they get to 9th grade, you also understand what that means. Now, they could also have a percentage. They could have an 86 or a 90, and it's going to say A, B, or C. That's also a possibility. Then, if you go back here to that NA, it's going to say IP, and that means that is in progress. That means the focus areas are up to date. You have nothing to worry about there, but their project is not due yet, and they're still working on it. I've also instructed teachers that if your child comes home with an IP or an F on their report card, there will also be comments associated with it. So if your student were to come up with an F, it might say F, projects are on track, power focus areas are off track. So you have a better idea in that snapshot of what exactly is going on. However, logging into Summit is your best option to get the most up-to-date information. So the parent portal, Summit gives us access to a demo site as students. We can see it as teachers. We can have it as students. Because I do not have a child in that area, I don't have that account. But I agree it probably would be helpful. So I have plenty of teachers in the building that do have students. And I will definitely take a look at it so I can speak to exactly what you guys are seeing. but you should be able to probably, it sounds like you can toggle and view your child from the parent side of things. All right. So remember, these are all the different ways that you could see. These are some snapshots I pulled. This is just in the moment. This was literally before this meeting. So these grades could change tomorrow, right? Or Friday. So it's very important that you look at Infinite Campus, or I'm sorry, at Summit. Infinite Campus is just a snapshot in time. All right. All right, so I'm going to get off of my PowerPoint here, and I'm going to show you a demo site. So this is, these are demo accounts. These are not students at our school. These are demo accounts that were produced by Summit. So these aren't even our classes, but it looks the same. Your child has this dashboard. This is their year view. You will see everything they have to do from August until this year, May. Everything is right here. So here are their projects, right? They're the top. On math, it's the math units. Then you have those power focus areas, okay? And then you have the additional focus areas. And in math, for some of our grade levels, you have those portfolio problems. This blue line is where we are right now. So this blue line is that pacing line. Anything to the left of that blue line needs to be green if we are on track. Now, if it's right in the middle, so see, matters, that's not anything because the teacher's teaching that right now. The kids are learning that. They are right in the middle of that, right in this ecosystem. We're not there yet, but we're getting close. If you hover over this information, let's see, then you can see the due dates. So if you're curious when things are due, then you can see the due dates of that information. So this one was due October 28th, right? And they pass it. Now, you can see their score. This child got a 9 out of 10. It took them 5 times. Taking it 5 times is a little alarming. So I can tell you that if your child takes it twice and is not successful 2 times, teachers will be pulling them to meet with them and provide a mini lesson. If they then take it again and fill it for a 3rd time, then that is a different level of intervention for them. That means they're really struggling with that information, and we want to make sure that they get the help that they need to make sure that they are successful. So this is the year right here. You have projects. In projects, you have checkpoints. So instead of just saying, hey, you have an essay that's due in 2 weeks, well, I need your outline and that's due Wednesday, and I'm going to give you feedback on that outline. And then next Monday is going to be your draft, and I'm going to give you feedback on your draft. It's like these little checkpoints along the way. So by the time we get to the final product, kids are in good shape. So you find a lot of information about the year page right here and how everything is going. So I'm going to switch over to some questions. The date says mastered on. Hold on. That said October. So overdue, that one says October 3rd. That one does say, let's see if this one, see how this one line passes on 07, December 7th. So if they've mastered it, then it will say mastered on. However, if the line passes, you know that that line's going to pass and that's going to turn red if they have not passed it on that date. So you can find a lot of information out on the year page. Okay, let's go on. So here's the year page. Here's that progress tab I was talking about. It gives, you can see right here, right? They've mastered something. You can see teacher gave feedback. Your child met with their mentor. It has a lot of information that you can find out what's going on there. And then that grading is over here, over to the right. So you have a lot of information on this tab. To jump into, if we want to see some of our content, I can show you that as well. But I'm going to go back, make sure I'm staying on target. So what now? Well, do you have a Summit account? A handful of our parents have it. They send out their information, and we want to make sure you have one. So I have a link to drop in here that if you don't have that information, I want to make sure that you do have it. Are you getting text messages? We have the option to put your phone number into the system, and the system's going to say, hey, Billy has a project due in 2 days. Hey, Billy passed a focus area. Great job. They're going to go ahead and send you some automated messages if you want to keep up in that way. So we have that option. And on the form, I gave you the option to put in your phone number if you want to receive those messages. I already mentioned that if you do not know who your child's mentor is, please ask them. It would be just a great idea to build a relationship with your child's mentor. Reach out, ask them questions. They are here to help. They are here to help your child be successful. Ask your students specific content questions. With that language, ask them, did you study for your social studies power focus area? And they can give you some information that, how did you do on the diagnostic? So I think the more you engage and have some of those questions, letting them know if they're struggling, what can we do? Letting them know and celebrate their achievements. It's also important to ask them about the habits of success. So they have habits of success they're working on, like stress management, belonging, attachment, and time management. Ask them how they're managing their time. Right now, being virtual in this interesting COVID pandemic, managing time, showing up to class on time, not missing a deadline because we do not have them all day. When they're in front of us all day, teachers have a lot of power to say, hey, I've noticed that your head's down, or they can't have their phones here in school. We limit distractions. You got to pick up your pencil. We're on them constantly. And we don't always have that ability, but it would definitely help if they're showing up to class, they're asking questions, they're staying. But that is important as well. So I'm going to stop sharing because I feel like we're going to have very specific questions based on the comments. So I'm going to do my best to answer them. And I want to hear from you also. I'm going to read through them, and then I can give you the ability to unmute yourself as well to ask some questions. So I have one about an assignment and a book that they have not started reading. I'm going to write your name down because that sounds like some clarification, because that should not be happening. Also, I ask that you give us a little bit of grace and that we are still learning this. There was an issue in 7th grade science where something got messed up and it looked like a chemical reaction should have been due. We made the switch and now it is not due till December. I said it right outside my door. So we made that switch. And so now if we came across a problem and it is a glitch in some way that is impacting your child academically, we will 100% fix it. So I feel like that question about the book and not reading it yet might be a part of that. So after the 3rd assessment try, what does the intervention look like? Is it individual or group? So that all depends. It depends. When they take that assessment, there are several objectives. And if our teachers are pulling students based on their group, so if these 3 kids did fine, but really struggled on this one objective, then those 3 could be in a group. If it is just one kid kind of struggling, it could be a one-on-one session. However, our 5th through 8th grade teachers have 70 kids. One-on-ones happen, but most of the time it's probably small groups. But it definitely could. And it is something too that your child can speak to their mentor about, and that mentor can help guide them through a little bit as well. In the lessons, especially for math, difficult problems, do they not need to take notes to look back on? How do I go about to look at the lessons for examples to help with? So they should definitely be taking notes. Our teachers have explicitly taught note taking. They've learned how to do Cornell notes. That was in the very beginning of the year. They continue to revisit it. I can tell you that in person, we would have some different strategies that, okay, you've taken notes. Awesome. Can you tell me a little bit verbally about what you've learned? And if they do not pass that assessment, okay, well, I see you struggled here. I want you to take additional notes. I want you to watch this video. but I want you to take notes in this green pen. So when they come back up and show the teacher their notebook, they can see, well, you only wrote one thing down in green. So I'm not sure how much time you actually spent studying. So we would do those kind of tricks in the building if school was 100% back in session. However, it is a little more challenging. There are definitely barriers with virtual, but I know our teachers are having kids put their notebook up to the screen to see their notes and hold them accountable and make sure that they are getting what they need. So when are the reteaches happening? The reteaches should be happening in SDL time. I've been in a few SDLs, and I'm going through this area. I'm going through this process. However, I can tell you that is the structure we are also refining and making sure that those groups are very targeted, and it is very intentional that, hey, I see you're struggling with this. I need you here on Wednesday at this time. So we are making adjustments to our SDL structure. So it is very intentional, and our teachers are building groups based on data, and that will be happening in SDL time. It could happen in content time. I think our 7th grade English kind of paused in content time one day and did a lesson on run-on sentences because a lot of the students were struggling in that area and they needed very explicit instruction. So that is also a possibility. Most of the time it will happen in SDL when it's power focus related. Yes, Ms. Rexroth chimed in that reteachers are happening during SDL time. Typically, they might be individual or group, depending on the situations. Ms. Bennett, she does reteaching during the morning if a large portion of the class is struggling with a part of the project as well. And your teachers are amazing and the greatest resource. So if you do have some of those questions, they can give you explicit, this is exactly when I teach this, this is exactly what this looks like. No, so if the chemical reaction was finished, that it's done, that is finished. So now that child is ahead at this point, because now I don't think it's due till December 1st. So they are ahead in that power focus area. So is there a way for a student to be notified when their teacher approves them to take a content assessment? I believe that in there, right here, oh, well, I think I stopped sharing my screen with you all. Let's see, share screen. So kind of two things. Down here at the bottom of their screen, bottom left, just like your phones, if you have a notification, text message, Facebook notification, whatever, you have a little red dot. That is the same thing that happens there. If your child has received feedback, if anything is happening, it's going to notify them down there. And I've noticed that a lot of kids aren't checking those. So if they check those, then that will help. And that will probably notify them that a content assessment has been opened up. Now, there was this weird 10-minute rule that once the teacher approved it, it was only 10 minutes that they had until they could start it. That is now opened up, I think, till like 10 hours, 8 or 10 hours. However, the student really shouldn't be requesting something and taking an assessment at 7 o'clock at night. That should be during SDL time. I'm ready for this content assessment. Ms. Rexroth, can you approve it? I'm going to work on this and I'll check in after I'm finished. So a lot of those content assessments, all of that should be done during that afternoon time. So it should be fairly easy to say, hey, I just requested a content assessment. Can you approve it right there in the moment? All right. Can notes be used during assessments? It is not the intention. I can let a teacher specifically, especially like the big units and stuff. But it should be something that they should be able to do independently, because what we want to do is we want them to actually learn the content. If they're having to reference their notes and that's the only way they know their answer, then at that point, they're just using their notes. Right? They don't actually know the content to be assessed on. They can't have a conversation about it without their notes in front of them. So notes should not be, they should be using those and studying those, putting those away to take that assessment. So it sounds like some people are missing the content assessment. Really, guys, that's an easy fix because it should be happening during SDL. So if your child is ready to take an assessment, they know at 1 o'clock they're going to SDL. If it happens in that weird lunchtime, if they shoot their teacher an email, then they could maybe approve it during there. But that 1 to 3:30 time is a prime time and should be the time when kids are taking those assessments. Miss Bennett says that the kids have her email and they can email her to alert her. Some of our teachers have Google phones that the kids can text or call. They can always call the school if it's something that needs to be addressed right then and there and they feel like they can't get a hold of somebody. Can students stay for SDL time? 100%. Yes. Yes. I think staying in SDL, I think right now we are setting goals with students. We're giving some students the option. And I think we're getting to the point where students might need to stay on the Zoom and do SDL. Their cameras can be off, they can be working, but a teacher having the ability to check in over an hour and make sure that they haven't decided to switch over and play some video games and do something different, I think is important. Those students need to be super focused during that afternoon time. So a lot of teachers are requiring students to be logged into Zoom for those content assessments. Yes. So I think this question just in general about Summit, our high school has been doing Summit. They are going on year 5 right now. I'm not going to lie, it was a struggle in the first year. And your children are heading to that. Once they leave us at 2nd Street, they are going to go into this exact same process and program. And I'm really excited to see what that group of freshmen look like, especially our 5th graders that are going to have the years at 2nd Street with it and then go up. They're just seeing amazing results at the high school. If you think back to your high school, middle school career, if I gave you a math problem right now and said, this is from 7th grade math, could you possibly solve it? Could you tell me every detail from a novel that you read? Probably not. And that is what we don't want for our students. What we do want is them to understand how to be learners. So if they are given material, they know how to take notes. You take notes on the job, you have to learn information, whether it's coming from your boss or it's coming from a customer, you have to be able to take that information and interpret it and turn it into a product. And we are really honing in on those real life skills through math, through reading, through science, and through social studies. So this Summit platform is so much bigger than just school. And I think the payoff is just going to have huge benefits for the years to come. What happens if a teacher doesn't approve it during that time? The only time a teacher does not approve an assessment is because the student did not put effort into preparing for that assessment. So we're not going to approve an assessment if the child has not studied in any way. If they just said, hey, I'm ready, and they are going on there hoping that they can guess. We've had some students attempt that. They thought that they could memorize the questions and go back and retake it. Little did they know that the questions are not the same. They change for every assessment. So we are not looking for memorization. We are looking for learning. Yes, it used to be 10 minutes to start the assessment, and now it is up to 8. Is there no finish time now? I would say if we're taking, it's a 10, the content assessments for the power focus areas are 10 questions. 2 hours should be plenty of time to take a 10 multiple choice assessment. And then another teacher chimed in, said sometimes if they're teaching a small group, they may not approve that assessment at that time until they are done with the small group, because they're not just going to attend to that computer. So it might be they're going to have to wait 10 minutes until that group is over to get that approved. Are teachers available after 3:30? Their contracted day ends at 3:30. So I'm going to say no to that. However, I know our teachers are probably texting back and forth with family members right now. I think it's important that our teachers have some have a home life and not just do school all the time. So I want to protect that time for them. So they have that SDL time is very focused on kids and getting them what they need, especially on those Wednesdays. So it's a possibility, but it is not something I'm going to guarantee, because those boundaries have to be there for our staff. There is still a time limit on the test, just a little longer to actually start it. Oh, clarification. Students cannot stay in the building for SDL. The afternoon, with the situation with COVID, we're not ready to do an all day. We are hoping that these cases go down, and we are hoping sooner than later that we can provide that opportunity. But currently, given the pandemic, we are not at that state. And there are lots of things. We've been taking everything in baby steps, and I feel like it's been working. So I would love to offer that opportunity for students to come in. One of the ideas is allowing kids to come in on Wednesday in person in the future. That's not going to happen next week, but that is something we're looking to step forward with, so teachers have access to kids in person for that time. So the class time, what's happening on Wednesdays is the What I Need Wednesday. So your student should be getting exactly what they need to catch up. Now, if you have a student that is caught up, then they should be getting some enrichment activities, completing those additional and challenged focus areas. We have some students that are about finished with the entire year of a subject. And we're going to have to move them on to the next grade, probably close after winter break, because they have made so much progress. So that Wednesday is a time for your child. There's no reason they should not be using every bit of that Wednesday. Now, will they have access to a teacher for all 8 hours of that day? No, but that 30 minutes might be that small group lesson, because they've been struggling with chemical reactions and now they're taking that assessment. And we're also looking to just look at that schedule and make sure it's working the best way possible. But that is not a day meant to just repeat class. It is a really focus on the individual needs of children. So students will not have grades for any of the extension classes at this time. So there will not be a grade for band, art, music, PE, etc. It might be on there, but it will be blank. So if there's some content assessments that have been requested, I would then reach out at the teacher at that point, get some clarification. There is a chance that maybe they just didn't see it, and reach out to them. Or it could be that maybe that student has to do a few more things that maybe they're not aware of before that gets approved. So communication is key. All right, that is the end of my questions in the chat. We're going to have a few more of these. I realize you've just gotten into it, and now you're learning a little bit more. I hope this gives you a little more context to have some conversations with your children. So then you can continue to get to know the platform as well as they do, and have those conversations. I know that I did. I've been on some home visits. When I talked to some parents, I think some parents were surprised, and that maybe some kids aren't giving them the full story. So it's very important that you communicate. And if you have any questions at all, your child's teachers, I'm very accessible. If you have questions, I will be happy to talk to you and answer anything that I can. If you feel like I've made videos on their students' platform for parents. I've gotten on so I just focus in on their child and make a video so they can understand what's going on. I'd be happy to do that. And like I said, I'd be happy to talk to you as well if you just have some questions and some clarification. I do have a form that I'm going to drop into the chat. It is a link. And if you open that link up, That would give you the opportunity to put in your email address and your phone number if you're not getting those updates. If you don't have a login, there is also a box at the end for additional comments and questions. So if you have additional comments and questions, I'm going to unrequire a few things here so it won't do that to you. And just fill in those comments and questions, and I will answer those as well. If you want me to get back to you specifically, make sure you provide me an email address so I can do so. So when I contact you, yes, so I'm going to check on the parent portal, and I have some parents I have teachers that are also parents, and if they have looked on the parent side of things, they might be able to answer that question for you right now on if you can see feedback. I can, but otherwise I will get back to you with that exact answer. Yeah, there are, something just came through about deadlines, and we might get to the point where I feel like maybe we need to post those deadlines. I don't know if that needs to go where you all are getting most of your information. We put it out on 5 different platforms. So maybe if teachers start including that in their grade level s'mores, on Tuesday, this focus area is due, on Thursday, this project is due, and you can see those due dates a week at a time. That might be helpful. Some of them I think are already doing that as well, but we can make sure that you have a little more access to those due dates so you know when that deadline is coming up. Also, if you have multiple children on Summit, or if you have a child at the high school, you should be able to see all of their information in the same account. You should not have to have 2 separate accounts for your children. They should all be under one. I really appreciate you all being here, and I also realize it is a lot of information. So take some time to process, reach out. Like I said, I'd be happy to talk to you. And I don't have anything for you at this time. You are free to go. If you want to stick around, I can unmute you and you can ask some questions verbally if you need to. Yes, ma'am. I'm going to ask to unmute you.
I have a question. It kind of doesn't really pertain to the summit, but if they are in person and not there, can they still do the Zoom at home?
If they're like for some reason they're sick, they just didn't come to school.
She was absent on Monday.
Yes, so that would be what I would love for them to do. Instead of missing school that day, just to operate on the virtual kids schedule, that would be great.
I guess my question is, how's the best way to get in contact with the teacher to do that?
If you know ahead of time, you could email the teachers and they can get you that link, but that actually crossed my mind within the week. And I think we could give that schedule out. So if you know for some reason you're absent, then they know exactly where to go. Okay. I know some grade levels have color coded their group. We thought about color coding all the groups. So you know that you're the blue group if you're in person, but you're the orange group if you're virtual. So follow the orange schedule today or something. We're trying to tweak a few things to help with that.
Okay. Yeah, because it was like you wake up in the morning and you didn't know. It was automatic. So the whole day was nothing and we missed everything the whole day. And I understand the teachers are busy during the day. So it was like, we tried to contact them, but there was just,
right. And if you did, yeah, because once our teachers are in the building and they are teaching, they don't check their email.
Right.
So if you get in that position and needed that immediately, please call the front office and we will help you figure that out. Okay. But we will do something to hopefully just try to take down that barrier altogether. That if for some reason somebody is absent for a variety of reasons, that they know what class to go to and hop on that virtual schedule for the day.
Okay.
So Miss Bennett, she said, so they have an orange, blue, and white group. The virtual group is the white group, and she dropped that link there So if you want to click on that and save it, that might be helpful. All right, I can give you all the ability to unmute yourselves. So I took away that option, but now it is there. So if you want to chime in and ask a question, unmute yourself and please do so.
Miss Sams, this is Stacy Liguori. How
Sam.
are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm okay. A little overwhelmed with everything, but I just wanted to make sure with IC, we shouldn't really be looking at IC. Or I know with Abigail, she's at the high school and she has Summit, and then she has IC, and some. And it's all confusing, and I'm still trying to figure it all out.
So for a little bit more clarification on that platform, Infinite Campus is the state platform used for every school in the state.
Right.
So if at any point a kid transfers schools, those grades go into that system and the new school will be able to pull them up. So it's a common communication tool amongst schools in Kentucky. So we put in grades as that snapshot. It's also, I don't necessarily think you need to log into Infinite Campus. You're going to get a paper copy. It's going to go home with the kids on Friday. It can be picked up. If it's not, we're going to mail it. Just so you kind of have that for your records. It would also be just a great thing to look back on. You can be like, look, you've got this on Friday and look how much progress you've made. You're not in progress. Now you have this grade, or look, you were off track and now you're on track. So it's kind of a good baseline, but I don't know if I would be logging into Infinite Campus. The only thing that is probably valuable to you in Infinite Campus is you can see your child's attendance. But with COVID and schedules and a variety of things, it's not as cleaned up as it should be, as it usually is. But I actually talked with counselors today, and we might be at least helping with the scheduling part, because I realize that can be confusing. So a lot of our stuff is being housed on those virtual websites because it is so different during this unique time.
Yeah, it's I know it's a tough time, and I do work for KDE, so I know with the IC, but when we got introduced to Summit, I'm going, what's happening? How's this happening?
Summit has all the details. So if I'm
Yeah.
a parent, I'm jumping into Summit to see exactly what's going on. I think it gives you a lot more information. That Infinite Campus piece of paper that's coming home will just be a snapshot. We are also sending home map scores with that as well. So you'll just get those 4 progress reports throughout the year. 3 times map will be attached to it, and it's just a good snapshot of where your child is beyond the details.
Okay, so with MAP, their MAP scores will be coming home with their report card. Okay.
Yep.
Cool.
And teachers, if you heard that, our counselors are printing those off tomorrow. We will make sure you have those.
Great.
Thank you.
And they're not allowed to stay for SDL.
Currently not. Now, I do know that some teachers are flipping their time a little bit. So some of our teachers are recognizing that their students need extra support in that SDL. So they are using that in-person time when they're in the building for SDL, and then reversing and doing content time in the afternoon. And that's not always maybe every day, but they are trying to adapt to the needs of the kids. And that if it makes more sense to kind of focus in on that SDL time in person, I know that that's happening in some cases. I do hope that by the first of the year, we can offer up some more consistent opportunities, but hopefully maybe even after, we'll see after Thanksgiving break rolls around if we can offer up an additional step. But it's definitely a slow process, and we want to make sure that safety is number one. But I also realize that's creating some barriers for some of our kids that just need to be with teachers.
Yeah, I think my daughter just needs to have someone else sitting there over her going, do your stuff.
Yes.
Besides
Us
me.
teachers are very good at that.
besides me, who's like trying to manage, a meeting with,
And the
three-
dynamic of parents and you're telling your kids, I mean, usually your kids will be like, well, that's not how Miss So-and-so told me, right? So even that dynamic, we realize that you all are going through some challenges at home of just taking this on, and everybody has some unique stuff, and we are trying to eliminate as many barriers as possible. We know we can't get all of them, but I can assure you we are trying our absolute best.
Yeah, I appreciate everything that you guys do. I'm not sure how you're doing it, but I know what I'm doing at Katie, and I'm like, how do our teachers and our staff out there do this work? Because I know I'm ready to pull my hair out. So kudos to you all, and thank you for everything you do for the kids and families.
Thank you. We appreciate your kind words. I'm writing down the note. Somebody asked that attendance is not showing up in Infinite Campus, so I will verify that and let you know.
Miss Sams,
Yes, ma'am.
I just looked at the parent side of
Awesome.
of Summit for
Okay.
feedback,
Yep.
and I was not seeing the teacher feedback.
Okay.
And
And
so,
that might be a button maybe we can click.
okay,
Possibly
so
on
then
our
I had
side, allow parents to see, so I'll look into that.
Maddie check, and Maddie can still see the feedback on hers.
Okay.
I cannot see it on my end.
Got it. Okay, that's good to know. And I
So-
bet there is a button somewhere, I would imagine.
Okay.
I will check
Okay,
it.
so I just wanted to make you, so that may be why parents aren't seeing it.
Getting all that perfect.
Yeah,
Thank you.
So just wanted to make you aware of that.
Does I feel like a handful of these faces are the staff in the building. Parents, do you have any questions before we hop off here? Oh, one just came in. The private message that I did just get, it is something that we are very much aware of. It's something we went back and forth about in reference to the F showing up on off track. I'll tell you, one of probably my fears was I thought about representing it different here at 2nd Street. But then the feelings that children are feeling right now with that, if that is something that could happen here, in a safe space that they know that they can come back from and we can build them up. Because what I don't want them to do is then get that for the first time as a 9th grader and see what that looks like. So it is something I'm going to continue to keep an eye on. And if it is something that we can adjust in some way, and even maybe changing it to an F to an OF might target some things. Going back to the real life skills that come with this, what we've also talked about is deadlines are a huge part of adult life. And sometimes when we miss deadlines, we miss opportunities, and ingraining the importance of that to students. We've talked about deadlines. We think about voting, right? In the election, there was a deadline yesterday in Kentucky. You did not vote by 6 o'clock, then you failed to vote. And I think that it's important that we do those deadlines, and it might come. I realize that F has meant something very different for a lot of us growing up. So I will continue to think about that. Believe me, it has been on my mind for quite some time. But my main goal is that the children then take that and adjust it, and that they grow from that, and that they are learning how to get better when that comes across. It is really just a red flag that pops up like, oh, I'm missing something. What can I do to fix it? right. I'm going to set a timer. That's what us teachers do. I'm going to stay on here for 2 more minutes. And if anybody doesn't unmute or ask a question, then I'm going to end the meeting. This is work that was submitted for feedback. So there's a question about work being deleted from Summit. There has been this interesting glitch that we've come across, but it's not deleted forever. It is a very easy fix. So for some reason, it looks like it disappeared. Sometimes that's what I love about Google. For our kids that remember when we did essays, if we didn't constantly hit that save button, we were at risk for losing it all. And that is not the case now in 2020. So if something looks like it deleted, it is pretty sure that it can be recovered. So please, let's see. The teacher was looking to have it restored, but no word yet. All right, I am going, you are privately messaging me. Can you go ahead and tell me, because I know we have 2 on Summit. Can you tell me which one I need to, and I will touch base with the teacher as well and try to get that restored and up and going. Yeah, one of my mentees also experienced that. So I sent her the resource in order for her to bring it back. All right, there's all right, I have written down, and I will definitely look into the deleted work. All right, everyone, let's see the form that I sent. I have 5 responses and no extra questions on there. So if you guys need anything, my email, I will put it in the chat. It's very easy. It's same.sams. All of our teachers' emails are the exact same. They end the same way. Just our first dot last name is the beginning. So that is my email. Please feel free to email me and I will be happy to get back with you. If you want a phone call, calling my office phone doesn't always work out well. If you email me and then you want me to call you, then that's usually the best way to do it. But sometimes I feel like my voicemails get a little lost. So if you want a phone call, I'll be happy to do so, but just email me about it because I'm not always in my office. All right, you all, thank you so much for your time. This should go up to YouTube and I will send that out